Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. Let's talk about Monday Night Raw from September the 16th, 2024. The pacing issue for the shows remain the same, but this show was slightly better than last week. It was a little bit more interesting. Praise God. Blessed be the talent who are fighting to make this show interesting. And the crowd is trying really hard too, but the company is not giving them much to be excited about at present time. So we're going to start with one note. There's only one really news story worth discussing. WWE was attempting to sell replicas of the bracelet that CM Punk and Drew McIntyre have been fighting over. So they basically made replicas of the bracelet, and they were going to sell them on www.shop.com. The young lady who made the bracelet then on social media basically said that WWE did not ask her permission nor inform her at all that they were going to recreate her art piece, and people attacked WWE for it. So what they did is they took it down, they took it off www.shop.com, and then a few hours later, they put up a different design of essentially the same object. So now you can't get the bracelet with AJ and Larry on it. You got to get the bracelet that just says CM Punk. So they switched it up because she complained. And it wasn't really a complaint as much as, hey, a heads up would have been nice. Or, she made just the faintest of whispers, and everybody started yelling about royalties and how she needs to get paid and all this kind of stuff. And I don't think she was going that deep into it, but there was some comments made, and basically they just say, all right, well, you want to have that kind of attitude, we're just going to switch it up. You can't stop us from selling Taylor Swift bracelets. You don't have a monopoly on that, so we're just going to change the design, which is incredibly petty of WWE. Instead of just cutting the young lady a check and just calling it a day, they decided to change the whole damn thing. and then of course the internet got mad at them for changing it, but it was the right thing to do. I mean, if she was going to complain about it, what more can you do? But that's what happens when they try to be somewhat fan friendly. They try to get the fans involved with the story, and hey, you can have your own CM Punk bracelet too. And then it became well, what about her? And then everybody was like, you know what? Forget it. So that's that's hilarious. But if you design a t-shirt and somebody wear it, and then WWE decides they're going to resell your t-shirt, I mean, you're owed monies. That's why I think they could have made a deal under the table if she was, but I don't know how. It's not like she has like the personal information of WWE. She definitely would have had to call an attorney in order to get that information. They would have switched it anyway. So I guess her making it public just made it easy for them. But they're still going to sell the bracelets. It's just not going to sell the ones that are replicas of the ones she made. I think they're the same color and everything, because they have the Chicago colors, the red, light blue, and white. I think they're the same colors and everything. They just took AJ and Larry off of there and switched it with CM Punk. So, poor young lady. She probably screwed herself out of a lot of money instead of just letting them do it and then backdooring and saying, hey, how about you just cut me a check for, a percentage. She might have been able to put herself through college or something, but nope. Got to make a big deal about it. Got to be public. So she screwed herself. But young Philip, he came, well, I call him young. He's old. Old man Philip, he comes out, and the bags are back. So he's becoming more miserable every week. This is probably the baggiest CM Punk's eyes has looked since his return. He's been trying to look young and youthful. He's been trying to turn back the clock despite all the gray hair. He tried to get rid of all the bags, but the bags are back. I think Drew McIntyre digging in his eyes probably helped. But also, old man Punk just does not get enough sleep. Somebody get this guy some melatonin. All right, we're going to truncate this. So Punk talked about his old bones, how he doesn't have a lot of matches left in there, but he's got more than you think. Then says that he didn't come back to make a mortal enemy, but he's done that. And both of him and Drew McIntyre are too damn stubborn to think that this thing is over without having a Hell in a Cell match. It says that he doesn't have any Hell in a Cell matches left in him, and his family's asked him not to do it, and the angel on his shoulder has asked him not to do it, but he's going to do it. He's going to fight Drew McIntyre at Hell in a Cell. And he says he can't promise he's going to kill Drew, but he's going to make Drew bleed. And he's going to put Drew in a position where he's going to have to kill him in order for this to end. And I like this. It was a very serious promo from CM Punk. They did the old walkout. He drove up in a car. He left the car in a non-parking space with the door open. Just real pro wrestling stuff going on here. You know how Steve Austin would just jump out of a moving vehicle sometimes. You'd be like, what the hell was going on? But this is all you really needed from Punk was, a serious promo from a serious man. He talked very slow, not too much, no jokes at all. And he got people involved. People now, of course, they were buying into the angle already. But now they're really in. And this, of course, cements what the main event of Bad Blood is, even though I don't think I needed this to cement what the main event of Bad Blood was going to be, because I already knew. All right, Sheamus. He's going to wrestle Pete Dunne, and he says Pete's going to be his Butch. And that Pete took away his dream. Oh, Sheamus is 48, and he still got dreams. Never too late to dream, kids. He wants to be the Intercontinental Champion. This is his character arc for the last 2 years. He lost because Pete Dunne hit him with a cricket bat behind the referee's back. Pete Dunne winning matches. How disgusting. How despicable. How offensive. To double down on the offense, Natalya is wrestling Zoe Stark. Bro, you'd be hard pressed to find two people I like less than Natalya and Zoe Stark. And then you decide to put them in a singles match against each other. And then you give them significant time. If this match was over 42 seconds, it was too damn long. And it was far longer than that. Look, I can't even say fire Natalya out of a cannon anymore. That is old. Zoe Stark, I don't know what to say. She needs a charisma transplant. The League of Extraordinary Lesbians is an absolute flop. Sonya Deville is really good, but she ain't enough to carry all the laundry that she's got around her. She needs somebody who can play off of her, who can bounce with her. Shayna Baszler is a sack of potatoes who can do an arm submission. That's pretty much it. She's basically Pete Dunne if he was a 46-year-old white woman. That's how washed Shayna Baszler is. And Zoe Stark is like half Shayna Baszler's age and somehow has less charisma. And she still looks like a Goomba from the Super Mario Brothers. Even if she tries to make herself up, it's not working out. And Natalya, outside of doing vaguely lesbian things with her sister, who the hell cares that she even exists? Who won this match? Let me look at my notes. Oh, Natalya won. Great. Fun for everybody. Yeah, right. All right. So the New Day lost to the Judgment Day. The Judgment Day retained the tag team championships. So earlier in the night, Xavier Woods told everybody, essentially, that New Day had to win this match on their own to prove that they are the best tag team in the world, to be the 13-time tag team champions. And Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley were like, okay, well, we didn't volunteer to help you anyway, so okie dokie. Xavier Woods also told Jey Uso, stay away, we got this. And Jey Uso was like, all right, dog, you got it. So in the middle of the match, near the end, the LWO come out instead, and they distract the referee. So while Big Head JD McDonough is down for the count, the referee is distracted after Kofi jumps onto the pile or whatever. Xavier Woods is extremely upset. He gets the referee, and the crowd is chanting, what is they chanting? Like, ref, you suck, I think. Yeah, ref, you suck. Ref, you suck. So, of course, in the end, Xavier Woods ends up getting pinned, and he loses the match, and he's mad at the LWO. So he goes backstage, and he's yelling at the LWO. He told everybody to mind their own business. They wanted to beat Judgment Day by themselves. And then Kofi strolls up and was like, thank y'all, man. I appreciate that. He giving dap to the LWO and saying, oh, I asked them to show up. And Xavier Woods was like, what? And he was like, yeah, man, you know how Judgment Day do. They attack it, like a pack of animals. We need help. And Xavier Woods was stunned. And as Kofi is explaining, it used to be me, you, and E, Big E, but now it's just me and you. We needed some backup. And then Xavier Woods completely took that the wrong way to say that he wasn't enough, which he isn't. And that, why is it that the LWO know the plan, but he doesn't know the plans? And he's very frustrated. And Joe Tessitore, who is very good, by the way, I actually like him quite a bit now. He actually correctly noted that this is probably the first real sign of dissension ever within the New Day. They've been together for 10 years, and this is the most arguing they've ever done. And that's a good point. It's a good point. I don't care about it. It's not going to change my mind off me not wanting to see New Day. But it's nice to know that they don't really bicker that much. And I actually sat down and thought about it. And I can't remember how many times they've actually bickered and got into it. Even though they kind of went up their own way, they were still together for the most part. And the Judgment Day were the Judgment Day. Who cares? This Judgment Day concept is boring me to death at this point, bro. I'm not even going to hold you up. This thing ain't moving fast enough for me, brother. But since we're on the subject of the Judgment Day, Finn Balor approached Rhea Ripley and basically decided he was going to tell Rhea Ripley about herself. And it says that her and Damian Priest only care about themselves. They cost him the World Heavyweight Championship, and they cost themselves their own titles. And said they were supposed to be a family, but all they do is care about themselves. So Rhea Ripley said that she did care about the family. She was just trying to stop these guys from fighting all the time. And that Finn Balor is trying to rewrite history. Finn Balor then said that he was the one that was the devil on Dominic's shoulder that told him to sneak off with Liv Morgan. It was him the whole time. At this point, Jey Uso, the second time Jey Uso has been in the same shot with Rhea Ripley, decided to step up just in case Finn Balor was going to do something to Rhea Ripley. And he backs off because he had better things to do. So Finn Balor told Jey Uso to focus on his Intercontinental title match and that Rhea Ripley wasn't in his league, which led to an awkward moment between Rhea and Jey, which I know sent Rikishi's. I know his head was on fire. Steam would start coming out of his ears. He was calling his daughter-in-law like, it's just TV. You don't have to worry about that. It's just TV. He loves you. He loves the kids. He loves everybody. Like, look, we get it, Rikishi. It's a work. All right, just relax. So, Jey Uso, now that he's been set straight by Finn Balor, told to basically mind his own business, Jey Uso decides to go mind his own business. So he went out there to argue with Braun Breaker, or at least get into Braun Breaker's face. So he was talking about being excited. This is what he wanted ever since he left the Bloodline. He wanted to prove that he could do it on his own. This is his character arc. Braun Breaker came out there and said that what Jey Uso is trying to do is inspiring, but he's done more in 6 months as a solo wrestler than Jey Uso has done for 14 years. He said he didn't need his dad, didn't need his uncle. He didn't even use his family name. I said, well, Jey Uso doesn't use his family name either. Anyway, Braun Breaker said he a dog. This what he do. And he said that Jey Uso is nothing without his family. This is a very good promo from Braun Breaker. It sounded like he meant every word. Jey Uso was talking about proving himself. Said he's going to do it. He's going to dog walk Braun Breaker. And then they got into a fight. And the fight ends with Jey Uso actually nailing Braun Breaker with a spear. Okay. Later in the show, as Dominic Mysterio wrestles Damian Priest and Dominic Mysterio loses that match, it actually wasn't too bad. Dominic can lose 100 times and it won't bother. It won't hurt his character at all. Because his character's not built off being a badass. His character's a weasel. So you basically paying to see Dominic get beat up. It can still happen less, but whatever. It's not going to kill Dominic to lose. Anyway, during this match, Jey Uso tried to come out and save Judgment Day, well, specifically Rhea Ripley, after Liv Morgan had threw her into the steps. Speaking of Liv Morgan, I kind of skipped over her segment with Damian Priest, where she called Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest both has-beens. But Damian Priest says he surprised anybody in Judgment Day has a set, and Rhea Ripley's gonna shove that set down Liv Morgan's throat. Didn't quite happen in this backstage segment because they still got this little leg injury for Rhea, and Liv is still very small. She could definitely use some help, but they refuse to do it. They refuse to add another female character to Liv Morgan to make her more menacing, or to at least make her sneakier. I get you want to have her and Dominic as a pair, but I think she needs physical help. Somebody needs to be with her, like bigger than her, because even with one leg, it's not going to be believable that Rhea Ripley's going to have so much problems with Liv Morgan. So the show ends with the Judgment Day standing tall, which feels like that's how Raw has ended every week for 3 years. Just generic Judgment Day standing tall, they run Monday Night Raw. And yet they don't seem to be the most over people on the roster. Like, that's how you know when this thing is not really working. Like, they're dominating and beating everybody up every week, and yet they're not the most over people on the show. You know, maybe Dominic is, but, well, I guess Rhea Ripley is too. They seem to be the only two that really benefited from these weekly they stand tall segments. It seems to be Dominic and Rhea has benefited the most. Everybody else is just kind of, they've had some level of success because, you know, you keep pushing them. People are going to care. But outside of Dominic and Rhea, I don't think anybody's really attached to any one member of the Judgment Day, especially not Carlito. And they wearing cum shirts, you know, with street trash all over it. Which led everybody to think that they were going to change their name to Street Trash. Do you remember that? I remember that. Oh, they're going to change the name of Judgment Day to Street Trash. They did not, and they were not going to. There were no intention. They invested way too much time, money, energy into the name Judgment Day to switch it to Street Trash. That's just what the shirt is called. But that's what people who look up what's being trademarked and then just jump to conclusions, because that's what these people do. All right, next. Let's finally get off Judgment Day. I don't want to talk about Judgment Day. Bronson Reed, they did a vignette where he said that he was the one true monster of WWE. He put down Strowman, Seth, Miz, Truth, and said that then it gave his opportunity away when he got COVID. This led to him having a match with Braun Strowman, but it wasn't a match. Bronson Reed ran into the turnbuckle, and the top turnbuckle came off. And instead of putting it back together, the referee just says, "Oh, forget it." And things just went completely off the rails after that. Since there is no match, Braun Strowman decides he's going to murder Bronson Reed by splashing him through the barricade. But Bronson Reed survived that homicide and then decided to commit some aggravated assault of his own by splashing Braun Strowman through the table. And then they decide, okay, well, Braun Strowman is still alive. We have to rectify that. And they decide to crash through the wall. I mean, it's just the fat guys are fighting again, Mom. You know, they're just tearing up everything. They're really doing a good job of getting people behind this and making it feel like a gigantic melee. Whenever these two guys get together, it's like, you know, a Dragon Ball fight where, you know, the mountains are crumbling around them, and the very rock under their feet is given. It's like literally King Kong versus Godzilla. That's rules. And I'm not particularly a fan of either one of these guys, but this works. You know, in terms of making these two dudes seem like they're the baddest dudes in the company, this works. I thought they were going to do the old ring break trick, which they probably should have done, but just save it for the pay-per-view or something where the ring breaks. And, you know, you got to do it every generation, man. It's about time for the ring to collapse. I think they did a ring flip at Survivor Series a couple of years ago. It's time for a ring collapse spot. And I think they're going to get one with Reed and Strowman. And they're doing a good job with Reed. Got to give them credit. They're doing a really good job with Reed. He's not as over as he should be, but they're doing a really good job with him. And Braun Strowman, got to give him credit because he's putting in a lot of effort into making this guy look good. Very well done on both sides. And then, of course, they cut to Adam Pearce, who was looking stressed out, as usual, because he's always stressed out. Cue ball. Why you bald, Adam Pearce? Anyway, Ludwig Kaiser, he comes out there that says that he wants a suitable opponent for Gunther. Adam Pearce is like, well, I found you a suitable opponent. It was Sami Zayn, but Gunther don't want to fight him. And then Ludwig Kaiser says, well, Gunther says that Sami Zayn is not suitable, and I agree with him. Essentially, like, he's not an adequate opponent. You're less than adequate, Sami Zayn. So Sami Zayn shows up, and he's dressed less than adequately. He looks like he hangs out in a bookstore. He looks like the most hipsterest hipster of all time, who only combed one part of his hair, and that was it. It's a chore to look at him every week and just figure out how much more bland can this guy be. Now he's wearing flannel. I'm like, oh my God, you're leaning into the Mick Foley thing a little too hard. So Sami Zayn basically says that Gunther is scared of him, that he's in Gunther's head. And Ludwig Kaiser came out there and says, why should he be scared? He's protecting you. Basically, that WrestleMania was a fluke and miracles don't happen twice. Sami Zayn gets in Ludwig Kaiser's face and says, oh, you just want to prove yourself. You're just like everybody else. That's why you broke up your tag team. That's why you're out here now. You're getting in everybody's face. That's why you're attacking Sheamus. You're out here trying to prove yourself. You don't need Gunther, and Gunther don't need you. He says, you're not going to get any respect being Gunther's mouthpiece. He says, if you're going to come out here and get in my face, you got to have the balls to speak for yourself. And let me tell you, I actually like this exchange. Sami Zayn telling Ludwig Kaiser he needs to man up and speak for himself. I like this. This is good. So then Gunther comes out there. He, looks to Ludwig Kaiser and says, is there something you got to tell me? You want to start thinking for yourself? Is that what you want to do? And then Kaiser says, well, there is something that's been on my chest that I'd like to get off. And he completely sucker punches Sami Zayn, and they brawl a little bit. Once Gunther and Ludwig Kaiser had subdued Sami Zayn, Gunther reminded Sami Zayn that he is not going to fight him. He is not going to get a championship match. And then as he's walking away, Sami Zayn fought Ludwig Kaiser back and then gave him a haluva kick, and they rolled out of the ring. Later, Ludwig Kaiser was furious about this. He was furious about Sami Zayn questioning his loyalty. And he says that he's not like Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. They're best friends, but they're constantly jealous of each other and turning their backs on one another. And says that next week he's going to fight him, he's going to beat him, he's going to expose him. And I was like, okay, Kaiser's really good, clearly. He looks like a star. Sami Zayn is a guy who looks like he catches the bus to work every morning. But he's talented. Guy can talk. He knows exactly what to say. The crowd's into him. As much as I would really wish that they would do something with his look, what they're doing is working. Sami Zayn has been consistently one of the most over guys in the company since 2018, thereabout, 2018, 2019. So it's people are just used to him looking like this now. They're just used to it, and they're okay with this. I just wish. What next? He's gonna show up with one of those popcorn bags on his head, with a Jiffy Pop bag and some pajamas or something, and everybody's just gonna not care. They can pretend it didn't happen because it's Sami Zayn. Good Lord. They did a video package for American Made, who said they're going to bring respect back to the ring, and they're done with the 5150 Wyatts, even though they lost every match they were in. I don't think you should quit that way, but all right. They said they're going to bring respect back to the ring, and I was like, Imperium? Like, that's literally Imperium's gimmick. Are you American Imperium? If that's the case, the Creed brothers should be wearing suits, and so should Ivy. Like, what should she wear? I guess pantsuits? I don't know. I don't want her walking around dressed like Hillary Clinton, but whatever. The match of the night, and probably going to end up being the match of the month for WWE, Io Sky defeats Bianca Belair. Earlier in the night, it was announced that Bianca Belair would wrestle Kairi Sane. Kairi shows up. She's not medically clear because she banged her eye on a table last week when she overshot her jump. And so Io goes backstage and she finds Bianca, called Bianca a coward for challenging Io knowing that Io was injured. Well, Bianca didn't choose the match. She also didn't know that Kairi was injured, but then said that Io should take her spot, and Io agreed. So then they go out there and proceed to have one of the best matches of the month for WWE, and certainly the best women's match in WWE in a really long time. Io Sky wins the match clean by countering the KOD into a small package. Perfectly respectable finish. They did some really good stuff. That suicide dive by Io onto Bianca looked brutal. It looked like she was going to die, but she hit her really hard. And of course, Bianca carries Io in a suplex position up the stairs. Great spot. Two girls, they kick ass. These are two of the best female wrestlers in the world. They did a really good job. And if I'm putting over a cold match, you got to know that it was pretty good. Normally, I would grumble about how a match like this you would think would be a pay-per-view quality match and for them to give it away on TV. But it was something on this show, a show that desperately needed something. And so I am glad it was there because it was a match that I felt like I could watch. That wasn't just, well, for starters, I didn't know who would win. So that helped. But they had a really good match overall. I think they did great. So that's the show. Bronson Reed and Braun Strowman did great. Io versus Bianca was great. CM Punk was great. Sami Zayn and his promo was great. The Judgment Day, I'm kind of burned out on them. It's not that they're doing anything that's bad. It's just that I'm tired of this angle. I'm tired of the Judgment Day in general. I've heard more Alter Bridge over the last 3 years than I've ever heard in my life previously. So, I don't know. I'm just kind of, Raw is slightly better than it has been. So, I can't complain too much. I'm really questioning where they're going to go with Bronson Reed and Braun Strowman. Because if everything that I saw is correct, Bad Blood is the last pay-per-view. And it's already got 5 matches on it. They're not going to make the card at that point. So that means they're going to do whatever blow-off match these guys are going to have. They're going to do it on television. It's like, these guys need the space. And you need to put a gimmick on that. And let those guys run loose. And it should be a pay-per-view match. This is the kind of match you should want people to pay to see, instead of just throwing it on TV. And since I don't think Bronson Reed has made a pay-per-view debut yet, it would be a worthy pay-per-view debut. This is where Triple H needs to be more flexible in putting together the card. Because Raw is 3 hours and there's still only 5 matches on the show. And therefore you see the same people over and over and over again every week. And sometimes, a guy like a Bronson Reed can pull a main event, and that's what it seems like it's going to be. Is I guess the week of Bad Blood, they're probably going to have the Strowman, Bronson Reed blow off, no holds barred, whatever. Which I would imagine it would be, or Last Man Standing or something. But that's a pay-per-view match as far as I'm concerned. And that's the one thing when I go back and I look at old WWF that kind of made it stand out, especially in comparison today, is that they would do gimmick matches for long-running mid-card feuds. They would treat these things like with some real weight to it. It wasn't just, oh, it's mid-card shit. Like when you look at Andrade and Carmelo Hayes, they had 5 singles matches where they were jumping each other and all kinds of stuff. They never turned the knob off of medium heat. So it never went up. There was no escalation. But here there's tons of escalation, but they're not, and it's clearly going to be a gimmick match here, but they won't put it in a prime position. It's like Triple H has this idea where these guys are mid-carders, that's all they're ever going to be, and that's it. And it's like, okay, that's fine and all, but you can still present stuff that's going to be in the mid-card as being stuff that's worth your time and worthy of a main event spot, and that people will sit and watch this. And look, if Bad Blood is only going to have one gimmick match on there, being the Hell in a Cell match, you could use another one. You could put a no holds barred match on underneath. It's different enough. A Last Man Standing match, rather. You could do something like that. It's different enough. You know, I would get, well, maybe it won't be because, you know, weapons and stuff, maybe. But this is the one thing that AEW is doing that WWE needs to do more of, and that's gimmick matches. Because when I look at, and especially when I watch old pay-per-views, you would see a casket match on the show, or, you know, the Buried Alive match, or a steel cage match. And it's not the main event. It's between two guys who've been feuding for a long time, and it's, you know, a featured match on the show, but it's not the main event. And it helps to elevate people who are right on the cusp of the main event, but, you know, you're trying to get them to that next level. And one of the matches that I probably saw that kind of gave this idea was X-Pac versus Chris Jericho. And I forgot what pay-per-view that was I was watching already. But X-Pac and Chris Jericho, it was No Mercy 2000, I think it was. And they had a steel cage match. And the show was loaded. I mean, it had Rikishi versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. This was when Stone Cold was making his return. You know, Chris Benoit versus Triple H and Kurt Angle versus The Rock. And then it just, you know, not even a top 4 match on the show is a steel cage match between Jericho and X-Pac, and people were really into it. You can do stuff like that, you know? And I get it. They're not trying to sell pay-per-views anymore, so they don't need to do stuff like that. But wouldn't it be nice if you do it? And you don't have to do it all the time. AEW does it. They may do it a little too much with the gimmick matches on the undercard. But WWE needs to do more of that kind of stuff. You know, no more gauntlets and triple threat matches. Do stuff that has weight to it. Last man standing. You know, no holds barred. Steel cage between guys that aren't main event talents. Just to elevate them and take them to the next level. A good example of this is, you know, for Triple H, is you have this Bad Blood show. There's only 5 or 6 matches on the show. You got the main event is a Hell in a Cell match. But you have a couple of long-standing feuds on the show, like, you know, Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan. Why isn't that match a gimmick match? They've been feuding all year. You know, it's only their second match. They've been feuding all year. They've been feuding for over a year. And they can't get a gimmick match? Come on, man. You can make this show not as boring as, you know, it typically is by spicing it up. You know, spicing up the mid-card can really help. If you're not going to elevate talent, at least make the talent interesting in that role. And I think Rhea Ripley is a character that can carry most match types. And so is Liv Morgan, and the feud warrants it. Even if it's only the second singles match they've had this year or whatever, they can have a special kind of match to elevate them. You know? You just got to be able to put forth the effort. You got to want to do it. You got to have the nerve. you know. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you guys later.
No one does it better.